Thanks for joining us on UPD. Today's conversation was about pornography.
We looked at lust, we looked at validation, we looked at the desirability trap, and we really believe we gave you some insight on how you can battle against it.
Yeah, we have some tips and some strategies and some real encouragement that we gave today, and we hope that you guys will find purpose in this episode.
You're not going to want to miss this. Check it out. Welcome to the UPD Podcast.
Designed to point men towards Jesus.
Real life, real talk. Join us. I'm Andy Lamb.
I'm Jonny Hanson.
This is the UPD Podcast.
Hey friends, thanks so much for joining us on the Untrained Philosophical Discussionist. My name's Jonny Hanson. This is my good buddy Andy Lamb. We are called UPD. And today we're discussing a topic that is, we think, one of the most important topics that you can discuss, and it's pornography. It's validation and it's desire.
Yeah, we have about 100 years of experience between the two of us making mostly mistakes. So the content that we're going to be bringing you, we are untrained. So we want to be very clear about that. We have no schooling or background. What we do have is life experience, and our hope is to bring the mistakes that we've made in life and give you some insight on maybe how you can do things better before you have to look back and regret the past life that you have and the time that you missed with your family.
Yeah, we know that this is a challenging subject, and we want to challenge you. And that's what we hope to make a great argument for today as we go about discussing this, the whys and why nots.
Yeah.
And
we also, we never want to be those guys that are just going to be like, hey, you just need to do this just because men just give you. We want to actually give you some foundation of why it's a better life to be careful with what we look at and what we do. We also want to give you some real practical things on how you can continue to work through that. At the end of the day, it is our call to be men and to be leaders, and we should be super protective of our families. But we also want to let you know that it's a battle, and it's going to be a battle. And it's in the battle where you're going to find resilience and really find out who you are.
Let me extrapolate on your kind of intro piece there. The way that we go about handling this podcast, we say, here's all the stupid crap we did that got us in a lot of trouble and left us shameful and hurt and broken. And here's how Christ redeemed us and brought us to a better place. And here's some of the ways that he led us through paths to be on the straighter path, the better path, and good family men and strong business leaders and such in our households. If you're interested in that, I think this is the podcast for you.
Yeah.
And I would also say, for a second, this is sidebar, but boy, we've been getting a lot of messages lately.
Yeah.
Please, if you're watching this, like, subscribe, and comment. We are getting a ton of comments now, so clearly this is working. If you haven't commented, comment now. If you've watched more than one other show, please comment.
Yeah.
It helps us a bunch, and it's so interesting going back and forth with the people that are commenting.
Yeah.
And I mean, everything, 99.9% of it's positive, which is great. And even the 0.1% is interesting and introspective. We speak about it, and it really just, it encourages us, and we love that. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's the encouragement part that comes from that, to know that what we're doing is making a difference in people's lives. And so thank you.
It's having the impact we're shooting for.
That's exactly right. Because at the end of the day, this takes time away from our families, and it takes resources. And if we're not being effective, then we're being ineffective for our families. But if we are, then it's worth the sacrifice. So thank you.
So getting back to it, we did terrible things. We did awful things and very bad, not good things. Christ led us to a new path. We want to share that with you.
Amen.
In hopes that you don't have to hit those same bad spots that we hit.
Yeah,
that's it.
Hopefully you don't have to hit bottom multiple times.
But always it starts with the failures that we had in our life. That's what we lead with. Why? Because we're not here to point our fingers at you. We have these big fat planks in our own eyes, and I can't even see the camera 4 feet from my face.
We're constantly working at pulling those planks out, man.
Always.
And then every time you feel like you get one plank out, another one shows up, and it's like, okay, well, I guess I got to work on that part now.
And the oldest men that I know, when I talk to them, they go, oh yeah, that's the rest of your life.
Yeah. That's having those good mentors in your life that are like, being able to ask that question, hey, we're almost 50.
Right.
what's life look like at
Andy's
6?
almost 50. I'm only 45. I got a lot of time.
You're right, but it's like, okay, what should I expect at 60, and
Yeah.
what should I expect at 70 and
Sure.
80, and the ones that are honest, especially in their 70s, are like, you're going to deal with that forever.
Yeah.
But keep battling.
The honest ones, the only ones you want as mentors, by the way.
Yep.
So we like to open every show with a proverb. Today's proverb is Proverbs 27:20.
Go ahead.
This one's a doozy. Sheol and Abaddon are never satisfied, and never satisfied are the eyes of men. I'm going to repeat that. Proverbs 27:20. Sheol and Abaddon are never satisfied, and never satisfied are the eyes of men. Now, I might have mispronounced
Sheol,
whatever it
Who
is.
cares?
I'm going to give those are Hebrew words. Sheol is the Hebrew word for underworld or the realm of the dead. It's described as a shadowy, insatiable realm where people go when they die.
Mm-hmm.
And Abaddon is a place of destruction. That's also a Hebrew word, described as ruin or doom. And actually, it's a darker realm than Sheol.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, this dark realm, both of these dark and darkest of realms are never satisfied.
Both sound awful.
And never satisfied are the eyes of men. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this content, we just ask you to go on and like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Comments mean all the difference in the world.
Yeah, the views, the subscriptions, everything you do is what helps support our mission, and it's what makes us move forward further. So thank you for your support.
Now back to the show.
It's the tie of those two things together is paints a very broad stroke of how deep the caverns of our mind can go based off what we're looking at, and they are never satisfied. I just think about guys today, self included, right? And always when we're talking about this, it's to what we're challenged with. But I always think about as we go through life, right, and we have these challenges that we're faced with. Sometimes they come right at us. Sometimes they're intentional that we're seeking them out. Either way, when they come up, there's a satisfaction that comes when we give in, and it's insatiable.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never ending, and it's never satisfying. And so no matter how much you consume with your eyes, you'll never have enough. There'll never be a fill, especially when it comes to, as we get into pornography, there's never a time when it's like, okay, I've watched it. I think I've seen it all now. It's like it's never, and it always is a progression of things. And so that's why when they tie Sheol and Abaddon together, it's like you have one that's terrible and one that sounds even worse, and it's just that progression as you go through life.
Yeah.
Just how insatiable it can be.
Yeah, sure. I wrote, it's a natural human condition. I think it is. We talked about this last week in the episode, which was, for my part, before I knew Christ, I didn't know that what I was doing was a sin by lusting, but the results were the same in the overall feeling inside when I would be left empty at the end of whatever I thought was going to fill me. Yeah?
Yeah.
And also with this piece, the eyes of man are never
satisfied.
Never satisfied are the eyes of man. I think of Christ saying, and if your eye should tempt you, gouge it out. So, I mean, Christ, notorious for taking it one step further every time.
Better to go into an eternity blind,
than to not make it to eternity at all, is what he's saying there.
We're not to make an eternity with him. There's an eternity somewhere, right? It's just,
sure.
Right?
Yes.
So, better to be blind and go to heaven than have your eyes and spend eternity away from him.
So, you know who St. Augustine is? Yeah.
Augustine, man, he's one of the goats.
4th century philosopher.
Yep.
Party guy. Big time, big deal.
Crazy
Loved to
man.
party, got down, lots of women, lots of...
He's Greek.
He's Greek. In a book called Confessions, yes, he was the first usher. Nobody else going to get that reference. He said this profound statement at the further in his life after he had accepted Christ. He had become a believer.
Oh, he's one of the...
And his words are living on in eternity.
Pastor Mike reads Augustine constantly and quotes him.
So he says, and this is just fantastic, so I'll probably repeat it. You have made us for yourself, and our heart is restless until it rests in you. Again, you have made us for yourself, and our heart is restless until it rests in you. And isn't that him saying the thing that we've said a bunch of times in here, which is, I had a Christ-shaped hole, and only Christ can fill that hole.
Mm-hmm.
So all these other things I was trying to stuff in there to feel contentment and completion, validation, all of those things left me in a way thirstier for more of whatever that thing was. Obviously, alcohol for me was one of the ones that I used all the time, and man, it didn't matter. Towards the end, it was like I couldn't get drunk anymore. I was drinking to stay baseline.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what ends up happening with any of these things that you're trying to fill yourself with, is it's just a black chasm that is all consuming, and it gets bigger and it needs more all the time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as we move into our subject matter today, you're going to find a lot of that too. And I don't think that we should only, the reason I wanted to bring in Augustine. Yeah. Augustine.
Yeah.
Is because
it's hard because when we fish, we go to St. Augustine.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And that's what it's named
Spelled
after,
the same.
but they call him Augustine.
I bring him in because he wasn't a Christian. I wasn't a Christian. And it's always important to bring in the non-Christian, or the person who maybe doesn't know a lot about Christ, but wants to know more about Christ. Because if we sit here, as you said, and badger people with biblical principles, and they don't have a foundation in that, they're going to turn off the whole idea.
Yep.
Because it becomes null. This is some outside of, this is a spiritual matter, is what we're going to make an argument for. But also it starts in this realm. It's here, it's tangible. So we're going to bring other factors in too, because we think this applies to the non-Christian as well.
Applies to everybody, because even if you're non-Christian, you still want to be a good dad. You still want to be a good husband. There's still parts of you that desire morality.
Sure.
Right now, what you're doing the morality for may differ. But even as a Christian, like when we talk about being moral, it's because I want to be obedient to Christ. I want to be obedient to the Word of God.
Right.
And there's this innate thing that God has put in us because we're created in His image, that even if you aren't a follower of Him, there's still this set of guidelines or rules that we apply to as a community of how we should be living our lives, and within those guidelines. And so we know when we step outside those guidelines, whether you're a Christian or a non-Christian, but maybe the result of it's going to be a little bit different. So that's kind of what we'll dig into as we go into this today. So as we start to look at the topic of pornography and validation, and do you know what word the Bible uses when it talks about sexual immorality?
Yeah.
The word porneia.
Right.
And this word porneia obviously is where we get the term pornography from. There are 25 times in the New Testament that writers use this word porneia. And the basic description of it is sexual immorality. And the baseline of sexual immorality can range from, sex before marriage. It can range to homosexuality. It gives us a broad stroke of what sexually immoral is. It's everything that is sex outside of the context of marriage is what they'll use the word porneia for. Mm-hmm. But it's interesting that that's the Greek word, and that's the word that we use today for pornography, and just how that even 2,000 years ago, even going into today, that the human mind has not changed when it comes to this. The lust of the eyes is still what it is, and guys are still going to wrestle with that 2,000 years later. So it has something to do with how we were created and how we are made. But God also wanted us, He created us to do that way, because when I see my wife in the right lens, It's what draws me to her and keeps me connected to her.
Sure. Today I intend to make an argument for abstinence. That sounds silly, but what I'm going to argue is that you should abstain from pornography. Why? Well, let's define our terms. Abstain means restrain oneself from doing or enjoying something. Because let's be real, masturbation has a satisfactory finish.
Right.
So,
Which is why you're watching pornography.
yes,
Right.
the very act of it releases hormones in your brain that feel good, and you feel good and you feel euphoric. So that's not lost on me. And I'm not going to pretend like that hasn't been me in a different time of my life. I'm here to say that today is different. I don't have to do that anymore. Well, how'd you get there? That's what I plan to unpack here today is what I think are just tangible ways that some reasoning, by the way, and then some tangible ways you can go about trying to be set aside, to be different. Because the reality is, I think we already said this, 9 out of 10 men have an issue with pornography in one form or another.
The research that I was doing on it, 78%.
Okay.
Is the number.
8 out of 10.
Yeah, 8 out of 10. So about 78%, so almost 80% of men.
4 out of 5.
Yeah. Struggle with it in some form or fashion. The interesting thing is that 44% of women, which I thought was, I was flabbergasted by that number. Because it's always spoken about this is a men's issue, but it's no longer just a men's issue. It's a women's issue as well.
Well,
and we're not going to go down that path because I'm a dude. What do I know about?
I think we will head down a little bit. I have a couple thoughts on that. So please.
All right. So, in what was really interesting is as I looked at the numbers of this, there was no difference between Christian and non-Christian when it came to pornography. The numbers just lined up exactly the same for what people are called practicing Christians. The numbers lined up just the same, and so this is a struggle for all. This isn't just a non-Jesus following issue. It's an issue for all people. So whether you're a Christian or non-Christian listening, the numbers are the same. The results are the same. The problem is the same.
I called you yesterday and said I was listening to a podcast.
I listened.
Candace Owens, who I think is brilliant, you can think what you want, that's fine, had on Ian Carroll, who I also think is fascinating.
Smart guy.
47 minutes into their conversation, approximately, they started talking about pornography. And they looked at it from maybe 4 or 5 different angles, which I thought was fantastic. They certainly used a worldly lens initially and said that this is a psyop. And I was like, wow, now you have piqued my interest. I have a lofty thought on that. Let's hear it. So they went into the fact that we've had actual people in this country that have tried to make pornography. And I'm not going to go into the details of the people. You can go listen to the podcast yourself because I don't want to besmirch anybody, but you can look it up in Wikipedia when you do it. It confirms what she states. I looked it up.
Yeah, about Alan Goldstein.
That's the one. Yeah. I wasn't going to bring his name, but
Alan, bring it up. Look at him up.
He went about spending a lot of his own money to make pornography ubiquitous. So now it's just everywhere. And he did that because he said he thought he hated Christ and he hated Christians. And he wanted to see the fall of the Christian family specifically. And he spent a lot of his money and a lot of his time. And he said it wasn't just him, it was a lot of other people.
Yeah.
So it's this. And what Candace and Ian broke down before you get in here just a second, this is why it matters for women, is because women have been more and more convinced to just share in it with your husband. He's going to do it anyways, is the statement. So just get involved with him. You know he's going to do it. He has to do it. It has to be, and it's no big deal. Why are you making a big deal out of it?
It's normalized.
It's totally fine. In fact, it's healthy.
Yep. People have been taught it's healthy.
In school, in sex ed, they're showing you and talking about masturbation and talking about this stuff now, how it's not a big deal, used to be a big deal. those Christians back in the day, those guys really, they were too far. They took it too far. But now we're beyond this sexual revolution. Chill out. Why you being such a stuffy? Let's just get back into everything's cool, right?
Yeah.
And women, just join your husband in this, and then your marriage will be that much better, by the way, because you're really going to be satiating his needs.
It's exciting. It'd be good for you to
What a
introduce
scam.
that. Yeah, it'll change your sexual experiences with one another. Introducing
What a
that.
scam.
What a scam.
I think this is the spiritual side of me saying this. I think it's straight from the pits of hell.
Amen.
That entire thought, that line of thinking,
It's demonic.
is straight from the pits of
It's
hell.
demonic. It's demonic. It's
It's-
antichrist.
Couldn't agree more.
Right.
But back to that piece. Can we both admit that was the fact that we're doing this at the same time they just put that podcast out 2 days ago?
Pretty interesting.
I love that.
I do too.
Because I was really kind of looking for these worldly ways to go about it. So why do I bring that up? Do you want to continue being scammed? Why is pornography free? Why is it free everywhere? Doesn't that strike you as weird? Go in the grocery store, what do they give you for free? Go into a clothing store, what do they give you for free? Go to the car dealership. What's free? Nothing. Everything always has a tie to it. But why is that stuff free? Because you're being exploited. It's simple.
It is.
They're giving it out for free because you're being exploited and you're being manipulated. It dumbs you down. When you use that, it rewires your brain, makes you dumber, makes you less likely to go out and achieve. By the way, that's why we have this influx in these things called incels. You ever heard of that?
Yep.
Incelibate, these guys who they live their life around pornography because they here's how it starts. They watch pornography. They get satiated. So then they lose any ambition to go out and meet anybody. And then they never go out and get, even try to meet a woman for fear of rejection.
That's it.
Yes.
Fear of rejection.
But then that makes them angry at the women because some sort of psychopathy then takes over, like she would never like me. And then they get mad at her for their own inactions. Yeah.
Yep.
So far. And then go back and hit pornography again. Start over. And you're just in this circle of this stuff.
And the pornography you consume changes over time. So
Like every other drug, the hole inside you gets bigger. You're not just looking at same thing. You used to look at pornography. I certainly did too. So I'm
for
here
sure,
to tell you the truth.
We had a close friend of ours back when where I'm from who started with his wife in just like Maxim magazines, and then they got into pornography. And I sat down and had a conversation with him one time about it, and he admitted, he's like, yeah, just normal doesn't do it for me anymore. There's a lot of stuff I have to watch just to even get myself to that point.
Yeah, that's the point. Is like you got to now search out the thing that's going to get you where you want to be.
That's why it's
no longer like, hey, I just bring it up. I bring up an image and that gets me to where I want to be. No, it's like I got to search through 100 images. I'm there for 10 minutes looking for all the different ones, flipping through all the thumbnails, trying to find the one.
Right.
I'm here to argue that if you're there, you're in the pit.
Yeah.
You're being manipulated. You're being worked for someone else's purpose.
Yeah, this is why there's a large percentage of these people, that's how they end up in child pornography. Is it starts with just the normal stuff, and then the acts of perversion have to change in order to stimulate the brain.
But not me, Andy, not me.
Right.
It would never happen to me.
Right.
See, mine's just everyday, regular. It's no big deal. Hey guys, if you're enjoying this content, we just ask you to go on and like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Comments mean all the difference in the world.
Yeah, the views, the subscriptions, everything you do is what helps support our mission, and it's what makes us move forward further. So thank you for your support.
Now back to the show.
You're convincing yourself, and it's a demonic presence that's in your life that's trying to convince you. Because remember, all the devil can do is lie to you. So if he's trying to convince you that what you're doing isn't hurting anybody, because you're doing it in front of a screen at your home, you're masturbating by yourself. There's nobody else that you're hurting. And that's the lie that's perpetrated to people, by the way, in schools. It's like, I would rather you be at home taking care of business yourself than being out there hurting other women.
Why can't you do it at your desk at work? Why can't you do it at school? If it's not a big deal, why do we have to go into our little hiding hole to do it?
Yep, that's our moral code. Moral code says this is where you can and can't do that, right? There's an inappropriateness. I understand, but the point you're making is right. It's like, where's the line? Like, where is it good and where is it bad? At what point? And who are the people that are perpetrating that? Why are they trying to push that?
Why are they doing it?
Yeah,
why are you getting sucked into it, by the way? And I was sucked into it too. That's why I'm so ferocious about this.
Yeah.
Is because I'm pissed. I'm pissed that I bought into that crap for as long as I did. And for every second that it stole from me.
I have boys, man. I have boys. Like, I'm pissed that it's like that big of a struggle. Like when you and I were growing up, man, like for us to find porn, like you had to find
It had to really work.
Yeah, you had to find the kid whose dad had a magazine somewhere and that magazine got passed around. Or maybe there was a VHS tape somewhere out there that got...
And you had to find a VHS player where no one else was around to watch it.
It wasn't that simple, and now it's just so It's just so
every kid's got a phone and every kid's got access. Why do they make it so easy for kids to use it then, too, by the way? Why is it that my kid could get on his phone right now at 13 and just go to any of those sites? Why don't they put any blocking on that? Now, have you ever thought about that?
Florida changed it. You have to put in, and you have to show an ID now to get on.
How? You have to take a picture of your ID or something?
Yep, to be able to get online. You have to be 18 to be able to access any
kids
sites.
Just got to take your ID. There's
definitely workarounds. I'm not saying it's a perfect solution. It's a step, but it's not a perfect solution. But you're right. Up until 5 minutes ago, and
it's not in any of the other states. I mean, we're here like picking up these things, but the larger point is, again, if this, and I think it is, and I'm trying to make a worldly presentation to you. Andy's here to make a spiritual presentation. I think that's awesome, and we both will. But I'm here saying there's a scam going on, and I'm mad about it. Now that I really think about it, and now that I'm really looking into it, it's like, who's benefiting from this? Cui bono? Who is benefiting?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody is taking advantage of us. Somebody wants it. And when I read stuff like that Goldstein dude wrote, I'm even more mad. Somebody's putting money into wrecking Christian households. Why?
What was interesting about that interview, too, listening to Ian Carroll, that I found fascinating, is his now search for God.
Oh, and Candace is already a Christian, but yeah.
But Ian said when he's looking into this, he's looking at why are they so anti-Christ?
There you go.
What are they trying to battle against? He goes, what am I missing over here with Christ that they're trying to push against?
Well, and beautifully, Candace said, he is the truth.
That's it.
What are they pushing against? They're pushing against the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Christ said he is the truth and the life. Yeah?
Yep.
And Ian, you could hear the gears going in his head like, yeah, okay. So what a great opportunity for her just to go, here's one little nugget for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Because the fact, we've said this before in here, and I'm going to repeat it, which is the truth is just the truth, period. And you only have, and it something about it resonates inside of you. When you actually hear it, you can deny it if you want to, but something internally is pinged. And that's why you'll have, if you're listening to this now and you're going like, ugh, these guys and this pornography thing, who cares? Why do you care? Because I think it's ruining the family structure.
Absolutely.
I've seen it ruin friends' families.
I've seen it destroy churches.
That's it.
Pastors.
Great.
Fallen
Another
pastors,
great point.
right?
So that's hundreds or thousands of people have had their faith shook because of this crap.
67% of pastors today have a background where they have struggled with pornography.
How could they not?
18% currently struggle. These are pastors. These are leaders of churches.
Sure.
So one in five, on Sunday morning as a pastor that's standing up there that's struggling with pornography. So it's everywhere. 2 Timothy 3:1. I wanted to read this because this will kind of explain that. So, but understand that this in the last days there will come times of difficulty, for people will be lovers of self, lovers of money, proud, arrogant, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, heartless, unappeasable, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not loving good, treacherous, reckless, swollen with conceit, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having the appearance of godliness but denying its power. Avoid such people. And I also understand, as you go throughout history, that verse applies all throughout history. But I also look at it as when it says in the last days. So we've been in the last days since Jesus left. So, that's the what Christianity is waiting for. We're waiting for Christ to return. And so it's Timothy, or Paul, when he's writing this letter to Timothy, he's giving a warning about what to watch out for in the last days. And I think so much of that when I read what I read about Alan Goldstein and his breakup of how he's so anti-Christ and his breakup of the Christian family and how his desire is to have pornography everywhere just to unravel everything that we've done with the nucleus of the family here. It just points directly at that this is what we have to watch out for. And then now you get to watch years later his goal coming to fruition of just how pervasive it is everywhere.
Every year it becomes more ubiquitous.
OnlyFans now, right? So now we've changed it, right?
Forget about that. I'm telling you, when I watch the Super Bowl this year, it's very sexualized.
Yeah.
All the commercials
Good
are
point.
sexualized. The dancing is very sexualized. Everybody's becoming less. Well, maybe this year's not the best example because it was Kendrick Lamar. His was toned down in that his was in a different direction. But like the previous couple of years here, we had women that were scantily clad, dressed, and it's risque.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always pushing things to the next thing. They're always pushing right up to the edge of wherever is, maybe media-wise legal for them to put on TV. Everything kind of goes all the way up to that edge now. Nothing is left to the imagination anymore.
Cheerleaders in sports, the ring girls at UFC fights. I mean, it's just everywhere, right? It's everywhere.
It's every billboard that you drive past. It's all over. It's when you're scrolling on social media, maybe even to watch this, it's date chat apps with some woman with cleavage a mile long. As you scroll through just trying to get to something, you're being sold sex the whole time. Yeah?
Yeah. A buddy of mine just, we were talking about peptides, and he sent me a link to this peptide thing. And the first thing that's on there is a girl on a G-string. And it's like, why? I mean, it's like, okay, this is...
What else are you doing peptides for?
Right.
You're trying to get fit so you can bang some other chick.
Right.
Oh, cool.
I mean, it's just always in your face all the time.
Has to be.
This is what sells this product.
And I think we're moving further and further in that direction. And it's going to take... And it's because we're all buying into it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, Andy gave the stats. 4 out of 5 guys are wrapped up in this. So the majority, by a lot, is wrapped up in this, and it's become just part of their life. Yeah. And they're not fighting it at all. But go ahead.
I think we should be careful when we say they're not fighting it at all. Because I think for a lot of guys that they probably are fighting, they don't know how to fight.
Okay.
And I think that's where we need to be different and be like, how do I fight? Because
that's what we're here to do.
Most of the guys that I know that I talk to right now that struggle with it feel shame and feel guilt. They never walk away from it going.
I think a guy that's willing to come to talk to you about it, Andy, yes, that's somebody that's struggling.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you won't struggle. In fact, I'm saying you're going to struggle. That's why I said abstain. That's why I didn't say quit. Mm-hmm. There's a big difference. There's a chasm between those two things.
That's good.
Abstaining is you taking back power. Do you want to take back the power over this, or do you want it to have power over you? Hold on, because...
Read what you wrote about when you talked about abstinence earlier. You said something in there.
The definition of abstinence...
It was the second part that you read in there.
Restrains oneself from doing or enjoying something.
Enjoying something.
Yes.
I think that's
Of course it is.
The key part to that. Sorry, I didn't mean to take you off your track.
No, you're totally right. The Cambridge Institute put out a study. It says that within 90 days, you reset the reward system in your brain from pornography. So it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it for either. With 90 days of abstinence, you can reset your brain. You can re-engage sexually normally, and it's only 3 months. Think about 3 months back. It goes by that fast. So that quickly, you could be back into enjoying life, enjoying sex with your spouse.
Being more motivated.
You could take the reins of control back into your life. I'm telling you, in the stats, all these statistics say that if you're watching it, if you're active in it, and again, because you're allowing it to cloud your mind, you're being spiritually blackmailed. I really think that. I think that it keeps you from your highest and best because there's always this little cloud. There's this little thing that's haunting and it's stalking you all the time. It's the next time I can get alone by myself and do this thing that feels good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always going to hold you from your greatest position you can be in.
And it's your go-to. If my wife pisses me off, if somebody at work sucks, I'm bored.
It's a quick dopamine hit is what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
Of course.
It's that reward system.
Yes.
So it hits you quick, and then when you're done, it leaves you feeling empty.
So what do we do here? Now we've badgered the piss out of this. Sorry. I get frustrated with it because now that I see it as the scam that it is, and I've really sat and contemplated this, I'm upset.
Yeah.
I'm upset because it's like, who is doing this and why? And I think I know why because it says it there and it makes the most sense.
I would venture to say this. I believe that Alan Goldstein is a man that is possessed.
Well, he's dead.
Oh, at that point in time was, yeah. And he's finding eternally what his reward is for that. So when I think
he was
about
a miserable man, by the way. You read his biography and it's like, this dude just hated everything. Clearly hated his parents. They probably treated him poorly.
Yep, he was abused.
For sure.
More than likely. And so
I don't know any of that to be fact, but it certainly seems like it.
It sounds
to have
like
such a great hatred for everything.
To be
that,
because he himself said, I mean, he's Antichrist is what
he
said.
He said it.
Yeah. So anytime I look at anybody that is clearly an outspoken Antichrist, because even the Bible says, even now, so Antichrists are already among you.
Sure.
Right. So when I see that, I'm like, well, that's demonic. That's nothing more than demonic. It's just how you undo the fabric of society and Christianity. And it's a simple thing because all I have to do, because of how men are wired, is all I have to do is just gain this simple control over what you're watching.
Yep.
And it's never ending.
Yep.
So I got 5 things. We want to equip you. So this is going to be a battle. So we want to be super clear about this.
You're going to have victories.
And you're going to have failures.
Yes. Like anything else in this life, I'm not here to say you're done and that you quit and you don't ever do it again. Or you just do this one thing once and it's going to work forever.
Mm-hmm.
That is absurd. Nothing works like that.
Nothing works like it's. How many times did you try to quit drinking?
Oh my God. Every night I would say I'm not going to drink tomorrow.
Right.
This is and I'd drink up everything I had in the house and I'd wake up the next morning and then I'd go for something instantly would trigger me and I'd go get more booze.
You go collect cans to get booze. I mean,
sure. Yeah, I hit the bottom.
Right. So that's my point is, as we go into this, is we don't want to be those guys that are like, if you don't have this solved right now and today, then clearly you don't know Christ.
Well, and that's why I don't like to go to those. And I did initially when I first got sober, I would go to AA meetings. Mm-hmm. What I always hated about the AA meetings was that they counted the days of sobriety. I can't live like that. I want freedom.
Yeah.
I wanted to be free from alcohol, not continue wondering how long has it been since the last drink.
Yeah, that's why if somebody asks you, like, how long you been sober, it's like, I don't know, 15 years, 16 years, something like that.
I can't track it.
Yeah,
it would, for some reason, that would bother me. And it's the same thing with this, because I don't want you getting stuck on days, though the first initial process, like I said, the 90 days to renew your brain, that might be a fine thing to track. In fact, I'd encourage it.
Absolutely.
And start tracking it and see the results and take victories. Each day is a victory. Each time you reject is going to be a victory. And then maybe you'll do it again. Yeah, don't let it carry you off into the desert again and say, I failed once, I'm out.
Yeah.
And I'm never coming back and I just can't do it. No, that is the bait of Satan right there and you're falling for it.
There's a really good book called Bait of Satan. And if you haven't read it, this is a big part of what he is talking about in that book. So
The Ragamuffin Gospel is one of my favorite books of all time. Brendan Manning is the author and it's an autobiography of his life. And he's talking about how he has alcoholic tendencies and he would go on these binges. And though he loved Christ, he'd go on these binges throughout these large portions of his life. He'd just like something would come up and he'd fall to that temptation again and he'd drink again. And God always lovingly welcomed back. We're here saying for sure, you're going to face these temptations. Should you fall, come right back. Mm-hmm. Don't let it carry you off. Every time you fail in this is a war, and each time is a battle. And, imagine if every general that lost one battle quit the war.
Right. Great analogy, man. Great analogy. All right, so here's my 5 things.
Great.
Guess what the first one's going to be?
Talk to me.
Lean into Scripture and prayer, man.
Okay.
Anytime we give you steps of practical things you can do, it's always going to include this. 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear.
Oh, great.
And so when you are feeling tempted, if we pour into Christ in that moment, then God, He will not give you more than you can bear. So He will always give you a way out, is what He says. Number 2, reframe your identity in Christ. Root your self-worth in being a son of God. Ephesians 2:10 says, you are God's handiwork. You're created to do good work. So when we are God's handiwork, that means God created you. He had intentionality and design by what He did with you. And so if I can reframe my mind that I am not in this world, I'm of this world, I'm not in this world, that I came from God, that He made me, I'm changing my identity and who I am. Number 3, pursue open communication. Sometimes you need to have conversations with,
It's the job of the devil to isolate you.
It is. I have conversations with guys about letting their wife know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a guy that's struggling with pornography and your wife knows that you have a struggle with it, every bloody time you go to her and go, I did it again, you feel absolved. Your wife feels terrible. Your wife feels broken down. Your wife feels unworthy. The idea that you should go to your wife every time that you break down and have mess up, don't do that. You should have somebody in your life that you're doing that with, another guy that knows your struggle that you're doing that with. So your wife should not be the one that you're going and talking to. But Ephesians 5:25 calls us to love sacrificially, right? The design of this is that I want to lay my life down for my wife. So the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to love her sacrificially. That means I have to sacrifice these desires that I'm struggling, that I'm going through. Number 4, guard your eyes and your heart. Temptation thrives on vulnerability. Job 31:1 said, I made a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully at a woman. Remember Job in his story.
What's a covenant?
It's a pact.
I made a deal.
A deal. Remember Job is, at this point in time, has lost his kids, he's lost his home, he's lost his livelihood, he's lost everything. And so he was at a very, very vulnerable time in his life where he could have started making some bad decisions. And from a worldly point of view, it would have been validated. You lost everything. You're broken. You're hurting.
His friends were all around him like,
curse God.
Yeah.
Who's God? God don't love you.
Yeah.
And so Job, at that point in time, made a covenant that even though I'm going through this, I'm not going to look on a woman lustfully, because he knew that if I open up that door, it's really hard to close it, especially when you're going through challenging times. And the last part, this idea of seeking accountability with people, it's the Proverbs 27:17, and it's not to be cliche, but it's the reason why it's there. It's iron sharpens iron. And so I need to be able to have a conversation with somebody that knows what I'm going through. And that's hard because there's a lot of shame that comes with it, but you got to have those conversations with people.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this content, we just ask you to go on and subscribe, and leave a comment. Comments mean all the difference in the world.
Yeah, the views, the subscriptions, everything you do is what helps support our mission, and it's what makes us move forward further. So thank you for your support.
Now back to the show. Andy made a spiritual presentation. I'm going to say some tangible worldly things I think that'll be
I love this.
Hopefully helpful. People are not props. People have their own life. The woman that you're lusting after, she has a life. We gave the stats last week, but I'm going to give them again. As much as 60% of the women who are in pornography are sexually abused, or were sexually abused when they were under 18. So they were little girls who somebody loved once, who were hurt, and in their pain, probably, then we find out 70% of them have some sort of addiction issue. So then they turn to drugs, and drugs are expensive and hard to get. So then they turn to sex to make money. And you're there propping that up. Now that's somebody's daughter. It's probably somebody's mother too, by the way, as she gets older. It might be somebody's sister. Do you have a sister? What if it was your mom? How would you feel about that if that was your mom? Well, let's do the research on the products of children where mother was a prostitute. because you don't have to go real far to find out that those kids are resentful and they're in pain because they see the exploitation of their mother. Consider that the next time you bring up one of these porn websites to go show your thing on and do your thing. That might be a weapon you can use where you go, this is a human and this is somebody's daughter. And maybe you have a daughter. Do you want her to get into that stuff? Would that make you proud, Dad?
But Johnny,
or Mom?
But Johnny, they're choosing to do that. I'm just enjoying something that they're choosing to do.
Again, I've already laid out why they're not choosing it.
Right.
They're stuck doing it. They're stuck doing it. This isn't the majority are not voluntarily there. They're there because they've been subjugated by their addiction. They're under duress because they're addicted to something and it's expensive. And it's frowned upon by society. So they're stuck in their own little dark corner and they do this to make money. And I don't find it, again, as we say that it's everywhere in society, it's not surprising that we see things like OnlyFans popping up where they're making a ton of money. So now we've even somehow managed to make it very profitable.
So profitable for these people. It's the numbers on that, what girls are able to make by...
So I think anybody that's justifying this is like, it's no big deal. I think it is a big deal. And I think if you really search your heart and you thought about it from those angles, you'd think that it was a big deal. Again, I made the scientific one. It rewires your brain. Look it up. It does. It changes the way that you approach sex with any woman, whether you're married or not. So even single guys, if you're looking at pornography daily, and again, we said it's a never-ending void. So it needs constantly to receive more and darker and weirder. And then as you search those things out, that's what your expectation becomes. So that when a regular woman shows up and she doesn't perform to the effect of these videos you're watching, all of a sudden she's not enough. And then it becomes harder and harder to connect with a woman. Yeah?
Or you think she's not into you because she's not performing at the level that your expectations set for that person.
Could be that as well, certainly. The Journal of Behavioral Addictions states that pornography floods the brain with dopamine and desensitizes the reward pathways. Real world sex becomes flat. That's their final analysis after doing this investigation. And it's like your regular sexual activities that would be healthy are not healthy anymore. And if you're experiencing that, again, you're being scammed. We're trying to offer you different opportunities for you to get out of this, but only you can do it. Only you can start really facing some of the realities here that say, I want to take the power back in my life. And I'm gonna do what it takes. And Andy gave you some great biblical ways. I think that 2 Corinthians 10:5 is a good one too. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. And we take captive every thought. I'm going to repeat that. And take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. That's why we're pitching Jesus here, guys. Every time is because he will meet you in this place and he will help you. So when you say these prayers, you are connecting yourself to the creator of the universe who will imbue in you power to be able to be victorious.
Yeah.
So if you don't think you're suffering, I can't believe you're 45 minutes into this podcast, first off. But if you're still here listening and this is somehow engaging to your brain, take the power back. I think of that. I just keep thinking that Rage Against the Machine song.
You got to take the power back. It's such a great song.
You have that opportunity right now.
I think when you say that, when I hear those words of take captive every thought, what it does for me, it helps me to realize that sometimes when you're going through these struggles, it can be a moment by moment issue you're dealing with. Right. And so when you start to feel that urge come up, because what you've done is you've created a discipline in your life. It's a response mechanism.
Oh, great
right?
idea. Yeah.
Right? So
it's a habit.
It is a habit. So it's like when I feel this way, this is what I do.
Yes.
And so if I can look at this, if I am battling, then I have to look at that and go, okay, taking captive every thought. When I feel this way, this is my response. So what do I do when I start to feel this way? I have to stop and do something different for 90 days.
90 days.
90 days, and I will rewire.
But that's one day at a time. It's one moment at a time. It's one temptation at a time.
Very often when you're stuck in addiction, and you know this, is that
Yes.
I'm looking at 90 days down the road. I want to be 90 days down the road.
Forever.
90 days is a long way.
It's so hard when you're struggling in this moment right now because we are people we are in time.
Mm-hmm.
We are not outside of time. So it's easy to look ahead to 3 months. If there's some sort of vacation coming up, you go, okay, cool, that's in the horizon here. But when it's right now and it's painful or it's boredom or it's whatever that gets you to that place, that's a hard thing to fight against.
It is.
That's why these tools are so important.
It is, because we are creatures that desire is how we are wired. And as we kind of get into this desirability trap part of this, I think we've laid our case for pornography now. We've given you some spiritual, and I think what you said, the very first step, it's so easy with pornography to dehumanize people, right? And just look at them as we objectify it. I'm looking at it for this thing. But if you can stop and go, that's somebody's daughter that I'm going to sit here and masturbate to. And that daughter is probably trapped in addiction, and that daughter has probably been abused. And now I'm going to use her too. And I think if you can take a step back for a moment and just start to try to approach it that way, maybe it makes it a little bit less desirable for you when you get on there and watch it, what you're actually looking at, what's actually going on behind the scenes for that person. As soon as they're done with that act, or going and, staying stuck in some dark, dark world. I love that you said that. It really hits home for me, having a daughter, an older, my daughter's in her 20s, she's beautiful, to think about what if that was her?
Right.
And what if guys were getting online, and objectifying her in that way? It just makes me cringe, man. So
of course.
I love that you brought that piece into it.
Thanks.
Yeah. So as we talk about the desirability trap, I think here's where the breakdown comes, especially in marriages for guys, if we are not feeling desired by our spouses. So there's the Journal of Marriage and Family did this study on men who feel validated by their spouses, meaning they've received affection or sexual satisfaction. They found that their self-esteem obviously is going to be at a different level. It's not an ego issue that they were looking at. It's actually an accepted issue that they were looking at. Okay. And so when we are good relations with our spouses, they find that men are happiest and healthiest when they have that affection from their wife. Unfortunately, what's happened now is because the breakdown of that within the home is now, this is part of the reason, and this isn't a blame on women. So I want to be super careful on how I go about this. But if men aren't receiving that at home, then the natural response is, I'm going to get validation somewhere. And so they get into this loop. So there's this cycle where they feel unwanted, is usually where it starts. They withdraw, and they start to feel resentful. Then this distance begins to grow between two people. Then they feel invisible or replaceable. Confidence breaks, results leads to depression, insecurity, and then they seek validation elsewhere. So there's this loop that we get in, this pattern that we get in for guys. And I think the pattern, we talked about this, the OODA loop, a couple of weeks ago, but there's this pattern break that we have to have, that if you can recognize what's going on, then having a conversation with your spouse, these are going to be hard conversations you're going to need to have with your spouse. Why is she not giving you affection? I think probably, though, where a lot of that breakdown comes is you're not doing your part that makes her desire to want to give you that affection or to touch or whatever that might be. And so being able to have some hard conversations with your spouse to get you back to where you're healthy, I think that's an important part. That's an important first step for guys.
I think you need to nip in the bud quickly when you're having some sort of separation conflict.
Yeah, quickly.
Well, it says in the Bible consistently, don't let the sun go down in your anger. Are you feeling resentment in your heart already? Go to the person you're resentful with and clear it up with them. And it might take some time, and it might be a hard conversation, yes. And if it's your wife, the person you're supposed to be most intimate with, and you haven't been having that vocal intimacy, that mental intimacy with them for a while, yeah, it's going to take a little while to unpack that resentment issue and get that cleared up.
Yeah.
As many steps into the desert it takes is how many it's going to take back out.
5-mile walk into the woods, 5-mile walk out of the woods. Mistake that I used to make when my wife and I would get into it is I would just go sleep in another room.
Sure.
And then just not talk and just to play and then I would ignore her. And it was foolishness on my part. It was
Sounds
immaturity.
childish.
It's immaturity on my part.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like this. Well, if you're not going to do this, then this is going to be my response to you. And I did it a lot. And now when I talk to guys and they're like, yeah, my wife and I got into it last night, went and slept on the couch. And it's like, don't do that. That's not the response to this.
No, we need to hash this out tonight. What's going on?
Yeah.
And you might not get to full resolution.
Probably
by the way,
won't.
You're probably both still going to go to bed a little hot. I certainly have. But you want to get this thing cleared up to the best of your capabilities, whether it means, hey, I need to take a walk. It's not, I'm going to go sleep on the couch. It's, I'm too emotional. Let me go for a walk quick and burns a little energy. And then we come back and we're still going to discuss this.
Yeah.
Because we need to clear out this thing that we're actually feisty about. There might be some backstory to it, and we might have an unpacking tomorrow or for a week or a month. But like, I'm not going to go sleep somewhere else, and neither are you.
Yeah. Well, what it symbolizes is me as I'm leaving.
Yes, of course it does.
So in her brain, you just have instilled in her that when things get hard, he leaves.
You check out.
He leaves.
Yeah. The guy that's supposed to be here, the rock of the house, the leader of the house, bails when things get hard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah.
Why wouldn't they feel that way? And I did that for a long time.
Sure.
Man, I did for a long time. And I'm here to tell you, like, it's a mistake. It's not the route you need to go. I wish I would have pushed in a lot more of those times because, my wife had, and her growing up, I mean, mom's marriage number 3, dad's marriage 5, she had people leave in her life. And so every time that I left or would leave, it would just instilled in her that he's just going to leave me too.
Just like everybody else has.
Mm-hmm.
That's not me. It's never been me. But the way that I would handle it is probably more poorly, which was it. And we've talked about this before. My spouse isn't having sex with me anymore. So that's why I do pornography. Again, back to that piece, but this is part of this.
Right.
Is I'm giving up my responsibility to go clear this thing out for a short burst of pleasure. To get back on the page and be the man I'm supposed to be is to stand up to this hard situation and face it head on. But instead, I'm going to jump out here and go do something that's pleasureful, that is done like that. And then I'll handle it some other time. And then I'll handle it some other time because now it's a week later and she's still upset. She's probably more upset because she's waiting for you to take your ownership of this situation. Now, does that mean you're the only one that's wrong? Hell, I don't know. I'm not there. But you have a part in it because you're both one person. You've come together, or even if it's a girlfriend, show her that you're the kind of man she could marry and step up into the place where there's conflict and say, hey, I'm ready to resolve this with you.
You're exactly right. And this is part of spiritual leadership.
Sure.
Spiritual leadership doesn't mean that I have to go into it and go, it's all me. Because most of the time, it's not all you. Most of the time, it's both of you. But spiritual leadership says, I want to get us back on the right path again. And so I'm going to take ownership of the mistakes that I made within this.
Lead with that.
Yeah. I want to know how I can get better so you feel safe and secure.
Bingo.
So we don't keep going down the same path over and over and over again. Because every time you take that step away, eventually, and I say this all the time, but you take enough steps away from it, eventually you don't even know you're away from it. And so we need to be aware of what's going on within our relationships. That means I have to be in communication with her all the time, so she feels safe that she can actually share those hardships with me. If you're just an asshat to her all the time and she doesn't feel secure that she can even come to you, because every time she comes to you with something, this is me.
You're overreacting. You're angry and you're bailing.
And you always gaslight me and make me think I'm crazy for the way that I'm feeling about things.
Go.
I did that to my wife for years too.
Sure.
Right? I did so much of this poorly. And my wife and I's marriage is in the best place it's ever been because I finally had to come to terms with the fact that I need to swallow my pride that sometimes I am the asshat.
I think this is the crux of this, is where does your identity lie?
That's it.
Is it in her validating you? Now that is a reinforcer of the identity that you have as the spiritual leader.
Good.
How did you become the spiritual leader? You submitted yourself to Christ.
That's it, man. Well stated, man. That's exactly right.
1 Peter 2:9, but you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession.
I love that verse.
That you may declare the praises of him who called you out of the darkness into his marvelous light. Is that where your identity's at? That's where I keep my identity. Jonny, how are you able to lead your house well? That.
Because I'm a royal priesthood.
I'm
chosen.
I'm God's special possession. He put a purpose in my life. He's leading me to great things, to those greener pastures he talks about in Psalms.
Mm-hmm.
And he has great plans for me. And I embrace that. And my wife says, that is attractive. Look at that man. He is a man.
Right. And it's an act of humility, right? It's that power restraint. And
I'm below God.
When I'm humbling myself to what God is calling me to do, when a woman sees that a man is in submission like that to God, it makes her want to be in submission to you.
Now, I'm here to say we still get caught in the desirability trap. I still want to look good. Now, I want to look good for my wife, but there is sometimes this little thing in the back of your head that says, gosh, like you said at the beginning, I teased you about, but we're reaching 50. And it's like we're getting older. And, you know, the old looks that you used to get from time to time don't come as frequently anymore. Huh?
Yeah. Start to look in the mirror and this hair's
goes where it goes,
moving
buddy.
A little bit and
gets gray.
Starting to gray a little bit, and
you get the crow's feet and everything else.
Yeah.
So you can find yourself struggling with that. Get right back into this word and go, who does God say I am? He's got a great purpose for me. He's got great plans. Okay, what are those plans, God? Help me fortify who I am. Let me find my validation in you.
My wife in our early days of when things were going great with us is when I started working out. Because I just thought if I could change my body and how my body looked, started to get all these tattoos, because maybe if I do that, then maybe she'll find me attractive again. And I had a real identity issue because I was so desiring for her just to desire me that I was insecure,
sure,
weak-minded.
Yep.
And there was nothing attractive about that at all.
Nope.
I'm not saying that.
And then you're sitting there going like, why doesn't she I'm doing all these things. Why is she not finding me sexy? And it's like, because you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And it's not producing, because this is all superficial crap.
It is.
Now, should you work out?
Absolutely.
Yes, it releases good hormones into your brain. This is also part of being able to take captive every thought, is to take captivity over your body.
Mm-hmm.
So do that, go work out, but at the same time, it's not the only thing that you are. If you get big muscles, that doesn't mean that you're rooted in anything. You can still have a weak foundation.
That's exactly right. And that's ultimately was the breakdown of our relationship, is that there was no spiritual leadership on my part. Now, looking back at it, had I been a strong spiritual leader, does that mean she would have followed me? Probably not, because we were dealing with a lot of other drinking issues.
It's impossible to say.
It's impossible to say.
Could you have let her out of those dark places earlier?
Very well could have. But what would have happened for me mentally is I would have came out of that a lot earlier, and I would not have suffered under 10 years of bad decision-making because of my weakness.
Sure.
So I had a severe identity issue, and I think that us understanding who our identity in Christ, starting there and answering that one question, that's question number one. Who does God say I am?
Well, and we've brought it up. This got us in a little trouble with some ladies before, but when we spoke about the that book,
Wild at
Heart, James Redfield?
No, Eldridge.
Yeah, John Eldridge. Wild at Heart, little boys are asking, Dad, am I enough? And that is the question in your heart you're going to be asking your whole life. And when you really allow that to be what it is, which is the truth, there is truth in that. I don't know if that's exactly what it is, but it's something similar to that. It's that, am I enough question. And the only valuable enough is going to be in the spiritual fulfillment internally, because it will exude outward in this other thing. It's the let it look good on you. You will look good and it will be attractive. It will be desirable for others because they'll go, what are you doing?
Yeah, and here's how we know that to be true.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying this content, we just ask you to go on and subscribe, and leave a comment. Comments mean all the difference in the world.
Yeah, the views, the subscriptions, everything you do is what helps support our mission, and it's what makes us move forward further. So thank you for your support.
Now back to the show.
If you've chased after material, you've chased after physical,
Augustine.
right?
Did I say it right?
Yeah.
He did all that. Solomon did all that.
You chased after all of it. And what did Solomon say at the end of it? It was all meaningless.
Yep.
I've had it all, and it was all meaningless. This is how we know the spiritual part of it is
the fulfillment.
it is the only fulfillment you'll ever feel, because everything else is set up to fail you, and it will fail you. How do we know? Because some of the wisest, richest people in the entire world chased after it, and that's what they came to conclusion. Every single one of them came to conclusion of the same thing. So we have to ask the question of, what am I chasing after? What am I really trying to fill in? Why am I seeking it somewhere else? How do I seek it spiritually so that I can feel ultimate fulfillment? Not just this quick release, but I can wake up every day feeling fulfilled. And then once you're out of that 90 days out of that, and once you're walking with Jesus, there's no joy there's no peace that's incomparable to anything that you've ever done. Does it mean your life is easy? Nope.
You will still have peaks and valleys.
Mm-hmm.
You will still have joy. You will still have sadness, obviously, because this is a fallen, broken world. And everything, we live in reality. There's lots of things that can make you frustrated. There's lots of things that can make you happy. And ultimately, we think that we're always trying to find happiness. I don't think that's really what we're trying to find at all, because happiness is so fleeting, and it's ill-defined happiness. It doesn't last.
It's contentment.
We're looking for purpose and contentment through purpose, maybe. How's that?
That's good.
How do you find the purpose of your life? I would argue you look towards the writer of the story, because that's what you're in, whether you want to believe it or not. There's a large story being told, and you're part of it. And if you want the best role for yourself, the one who's writing it knows that role. They want to lead you towards it. That is Jesus.
Yeah. Find your mission statement. Like every big business and every big business leader, their company has a mission statement. What's their goal? What's their intention of why they exist? Maybe you need to write out a mission statement for your life. Like, where do
I want to see myself?
Yeah. Maybe you just lived it so short term all the time that you can't see down the road. And so when you're stuck in addiction, you want to be down the road. But I'm just talking in life. You should have a 1-year goal and a 5-year goal and a 10-year goal of where you want to be. That's your purpose of where I'm going to.
I'm so glad you brought up when you're stuck in addiction. Would you just say that? You said when you're stuck in addiction, you want to be further down the road.
You want to be further down the road.
Bro, I've said this before. I'm going to repeat it. Oh, I was an alcoholic and a drug addict. Oh, and I really liked opium stuff, derivatives, blues. Remember blues?
Mm-hmm.
They had blues back in the day. I liked those. When you come off blues, having used them for a long time, it feels like there's broken glass in your body. Like every movement feels like there's broken glass just moving around, and it's all your nerves are overfiring because you've screwed up something inside of your brain, and it takes months to get beyond that. It's very hard. It's why so few people can get beyond it. Praise Jesus, he pulled me out. Every second was an hour, every hour was a lifetime. Especially early on, it gets easier, and occupying your time with things helps. So when you go to a recovery place, they give you a lot of things to do. You can go donate time at the food pantry, which I told you we used to do.
They keep you busy.
They keep you busy. They put you into meetings constantly, and they give you homework to do, and they put you in groups to work on homework. What am I saying here? I'm saying I understand time. I'm saying I understand struggle. And I'm saying I'm not special. It wasn't anything to do in my power. I said to Andy a minute ago, how many times did I try to quit drinking? Thousands. For years. Every night I tried to quit. And I couldn't. It was only in submission to Christ that I found freedom from that.
Mm.
So I also know a way out. And we've given you the way out. But it's hard. And it can suck. And there are victories. And there was a lot of times where I'd get maybe a week and then I'd drink again, and there was a couple of months and I'd drink again until I met Jesus. So I would have these little victories, but I couldn't win the war because something would trigger me and I'd make an excuse and I'd go back to it. So I understand all that. And we're not setting something up here where we wouldn't understand. And again, that's why I said, don't quit. Don't give up on yourself if you have a failure here and there. It's not the end of the world, man. You're going to probably, God forbid, maybe you won't. Maybe you will be blessed with an opportunity to walk away from this free and clear.
That's our prayer.
I pray that for you. But if you have a failure, if you fail today and you want to start again tomorrow, start picking up these steps. I really think these are going to be useful for you to get away from this thing that I think isn't just, I don't want to say that it's only spiritual, though that is the root of it. I do think that it's a spiritual battle. But getting back to those worldly perspectives again, I think you're being scammed. I think somebody's trying to hold you to a lesser version of yourself. And I don't know why they're doing it. I have a feeling that they're demonically possessed. Mm-hmm. I know that sounds probably nuts, but that's where I'm at with it. What other motivation could they have if it's free, which we already declared that it is? It obviously is. They're giving you this free. What drugs are given away for free, by the way? You can't go get weed. You can't go get Coke. You can't go get alcohol. You can't get no drugs for free, but they give this.
It's modern day slavery. I want to keep you a slave to this because if I keep you a slave to this, I have control.
Bingo.
And if I can control you with your mind with something free and simple and tangible, I've got you forever.
And that's that spiritual blackmail. Because every time you want to actually go out and challenge yourself, that's going to be brought up somehow. And it always is going to be that little buffer that you're going to have to cross past to get to the actual person you want to be, the actual truth that you want to have, the actual intimacy you want to have with your spouse. That little veil is going to be there separating you from them.
That's so good.
Yes.
That's so good. And once you open your eyes and you see it, and you can see it for what it is.
I'm pissed.
Yeah.
I'm pissed because I'm seeing it hurt so many people. And I realize how much time I lost on it. And then I read something like that where it's actually intentional. And then I'm like, whew.
When you start to read that and you find out that there's a whole plan that comes behind it, and it's not just this me in a dark room taking care of business. Like there's an actual plan and an effort to break me down.
To not just break you down.
Break your family.
To start with you, but then break everyone below you.
Yeah.
And it's all just because some guy didn't like his dad.
Right. And it's if you're a dad, then it's not only if he can get you, then he's got your kids.
That's right.
And he's got your spouse.
Yep.
And so we need to wage war. It's the concept of we do not wage war against flesh and blood, but against ruler and principalities of this dark world that we're battling against. And when you can see it for what it is, hopefully that gives you enough inspiration to go, it's time for me to start fighting.
We think it's time for you to take control of this thing that is ultimately going to lead to your destruction.
Mm-hmm.
But we believe that you can. Why? Somehow we did. Again, we're not special. Just two guys here that made a ton of mistakes and are just doing something differently today and feel empowered by it and want to empower you.
That's all that it is, man.
You can do it.
You'll
have victories. You'll have defeats. But it's all about the war, and it's about the long term. This is a marathon. This isn't a foot race. You're in this for the long run.
How many wars are fought with different battles?
Yeah.
Right? It's that idea.
All of them.
All of them. The battle of this, the battle of that led to the win of this war.
Mm-hmm.
And so every day you're going into this, today's the battle. It's not the war. Today's the battle.
So again, the worldly version, this is somebody's daughter. This is somebody's mother, probably. This is a drug addict who's hurting and broken. Do you want to contribute to the exploitation of them? Spiritually, God wants to armor you to take control of this thing so you can become the leader. You can be a purpose-driven leader for your household that can take ownership over his own things, his own struggles, and become even more powerful on the other side.
And on the other side, be a man that challenges other men to walk out of it as well.
There you go.
It's
You're going to start. You're going to become a leader, not just in your household, but it starts there, and then it'll start bleeding into everything else. Just as this has bled into everything else to the negative, this leadership and this new role that you'll have as a human will inspire you to take other challenges by the horns.
Yeah, in the military mind, for you to get a next promotion, you have to go through so many battles and through so many wars before you have enough experience to go to the next level. We need some more generals out there. We need some more men that have gone through some hard things and gotten their butt kicked for a while.
That's right.
Came out of it, fought the battle, came out of it, won the war, and now we're helping other people.
Yep.
And that's your motivation, that's your mindset. If you are a God-given leader, it's time to start leading. And our prayer that we can equip you with some of these tools so you can start leading well, man. The battle is not going away. It's just going to deepen. Especially as we continue to fight back, the devil's going to push in even harder. And we are waging war for the lives and souls of our kids and the next generation, and we need guys to step up.
Yep. So what do you think? Is this something you want to take on? Comment. Write something down to us. Send it in an email at updpodcast.com. You can send that to us. Maybe you say, you guys are totally nuts. This stuff is harmless. Sure.
Tell us that too.
What data do you have on that? I'd love to see it. I'll read it. We'll read it on air. I don't care. I'm not scared of this thing, again, because I'm looking truth in the face, and it's in the form of Christ.
Yeah.
Second thing, comment on the YouTube if you're there. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a like. Subscribe if you think this is interesting, and send it to a friend. If there's someone you know that's struggling, send this off to them. See what they think. And hey, if you just got this from somebody else, comment. What do you think? We right? We wrong? Or do you have some good ideas that you've used? Maybe you're in this battle with us. What are you doing? We'd like to hear it. Please. Get involved.
Get involved. Yeah. Start a ministry at your church. Start a ministry somewhere. If you are on here and you're struggling, just put struggle. We'll pray for you. If you found freedom, just put freedom as your comment. We'll just pray for that too, that God continues to give you freedom in it.
Yeah.
You're not alone. I think that's the biggest thing the devil wants to do is convince you that you're alone. And if we know that 8 out of 10 men are struggling with this, clearly we know that you are not alone in any way, shape, or form. But we want to bring that number down. We're going to fight to help bring that number down.
This is a tough subject. It's not lost on us that the last time we talked about this, the majority of the comments were how dumb we are and how simple-minded, and this is the 21st century, and how do you guys still live in the past? So we're fully aware that this is a war zone that we're in. And clearly we're not scared. We don't care.
We talk about it all the time.
Yep. So we think we'd love to have you on our side here with us. Let's battle together. Thank you for joining us. We are the Untrained Philosophical Discussionist, UPD, and we just want to pray that you have a deep and a fulfilling relationship with Jesus, and that he blesses you all the days of your life.
And all God's people said.
They said amen.
Sure did. Good talking to you, bro.
Great talk. See you later, guys.